Hey, we'll survive. We always do. Somehow. Fear Below is currently streaming on Hulu. It was written and directed by Matthew Holmes. Hey, Holmes, I got a movie for you. Holmes, we've got a hell of a case coming up here. Yes, I don't actually think that's how he sounded, but nevertheless, let's just move on from that. Matthew Holmes has worked on a couple films, including a Western that actually looked like it might be interesting I need to check out. And check out his IMDb page for the full list of his work. And it was also written by Gregory Moss. Man, he's taken a liking to that tree. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But this is set in 1946 Australia, where a ragtag trio of divers who are just trying to scrape by are offered a chance by, well, some mobsters, some very nasty people, and you can tell from their bowler hats and the fact that they drive fancy cars and are just throwing out money like it's goddamn going out of style. But yes, after some cargo ends up in a river, they must get this ragtag group of divers to retrieve it. But it's not going to be easy because there's a big bull shark in the river. As bull sharks are known to do, they patrol and then eat while they patrol. So yeah, it's another Australian shark movie. Not in the same vein as Dangerous Animals, because I will say they're tonally different. Dangerous Animals is a lot more darkly comedic, even though it is deeply serious at times, but it also had a bit of a larger budget. This has clearly a smaller budget, but I will say that the main strengths of this are the performances. The guy who plays Jimmy actually does pretty well as an Aboriginal gentleman that is part of this group. And the lead is Hermione Corfield, who was in Sea Fever, which was another all-right seafaring, water-faring movie. She plays Clara. And you do also have a guy that's named Dylan Maddock that also is nicknamed Bull. Yes, we have a mobster named Bull in a movie about a bull shark. That's on the nose commentary right there. He is played by Jake, don't call me Jack Ryan. And then you have a mobster from Poland, Janusz. Scott Janus? No, I'm just kidding. Josh McCorville, and man, you just can never, nope, not even saying that. It's 1946, can't say that comment. But that being said, at least it's a better use of Polish people than Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight and Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight 2. I actually thought there was a good idea to do a sequel for that. So that being said, yes, it is just a standard shark movie, but you don't see the shark all that much. That could be due to budgetary constraints and also maybe wanting to make this more about the characters, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. It's a breezy 80 minutes, like it does not last all that long. So even if you are not necessarily that enthralled by it, it won't eat up much of your time, ironically. It's just above average overall. I mean, again, I like the performances. And it is a small cast and crew, and they do what they can with it. But realistically, there's not much of a sense of danger. The people you expect to get picked off, and in the ways that you probably expected them to get picked off. But it's on Hulu if you want to check it out. I'm going to get into spoilers, which really won't take very long. There's not much to spoil. So that being said, 3, 2, 1, just above average spoilers. So it's from Saban Films and Blue Fox Entertainment. What does the Waffle Fox say? You're welcome. Studio Canal and various other studios. I mean, I think there were like 6 or 7 studios mentioned. And during a night trip, well, there's some gold bullion being, some stolen bullion, that is, being tried. That's gold bars, by the way, just for people that don't know what the hell bullion is. If you are under the age of 80, you probably don't know unless you see movies like this or study up on stuff. But we end up getting, some of the cargo unloads on accident because they forgot to lock the door, and then they end up crashing. And now they got to get the bullion out of there. I don't know why they didn't transport it in 2 cars, so they didn't have to go get everything in there and weigh the whole first car down, but I digress. So, I did like the vintage cars. That's honestly probably where some of the budget went, because those are pretty fancy cars. But Bull is the Bull of these mobster Aussie Woods, or these Aussie Mobsy Woods, as it were. Aussie Mobsy just sounds like some kind of Australian children's cartoon. And, but if you have a failing diving business, you need cash now. Call Sea Dog Incorporated, 877-CASH-NOW. Bet you didn't expect that one. And Bull basically shows up and says, hey, Ernie, take your people and go dive down there. Obviously, there's sexism and racism in this. It's 250 quid up front, another 250 quid when you complete the job. I'm not going to go into the whole Australian Aboriginal stuff, but just read up on that and find out how Australia was formed. You thought we were the only country that did bad stuff by the natives. So anyway, let's just move on from that. The guy who played Jimmy did pretty good. He wasn't given as much to do, I think, as I would have liked. But he was given more than enough to justify his character. Ernie says we really need the money, so we got to stay around until it's pretty obvious it was a bad idea to do this. Jimmy also fought in the war, and he saved Ernie on a diving expedition. That's why he's part of this. So during a dive, basically, her air gets disconnected because the bull shark says, I'm going to take you over here, and I don't care if you live or die because I'm a bull shark. I don't think it actually came up with that many syllables, but I actually don't think you could say words. It's not baby shark, do. I don't think that's actually it. Screwed that up. I don't have kids. I just have heard the goddamn thing, and there's no left shark, no right shark. Always better than the left one, do. So, Ernie basically says, we need to stay for the money. And the monsters basically say, okay, well, you don't want to go back in there because one of your people almost died. We'll go get a fisherman. They get Bob the fisherman who has a gun and a chum bucket. And that doesn't really turn out all that well because him, Jimmy, and one other guy whose name escapes me right now, little Irish fellow. Sorry to any Irish people that are watching this. I'm really, really sorry. I'm really sorry. I'll give you part of the pot of gold. I'm sorry. I really am. We have problems here in this country too. Like the fact that I'm a stupid American. But Fisherman Bob basically gets his arm ripped off and killed. Okay, whatever. All right, that's fine. So Jimmy and Ernie then go diving, and they actually do create a platform. It's like a wooden pallet. They manage to get half the bullion out, but it's caught behind a tree, a fallen tree, because this river is just like, swallowing up everything. I've never been to Australia. I have no intention of ever being there, especially after seeing The Surfer. Rest in peace, Julian McMahon. I don't know if I want to see that. But it looks like it might be kind of rough unless you're in the city. Beautiful women, though. But nevertheless, we see these two push this thing away from the tree so it starts to get winched up. But then Ernie gets bitten quite a bit. And he does have a knife that he's given by Jimmy where basically Ernie is able to stab the thing in the gills a few times, but he's bitten a lot and ends up bleeding out. Okay. So Jimmy then does a nice little knife trick and hits the Polish guy right there. That was actually pretty cool. I don't know why that made me laugh, but it made me chuckle more than it should have. But, and you can never trust them. You never really can. That's why Jimmy did that. I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry. So, Van Diemen's Land plays. I need to actually YouTube that because it sounds like a pretty fancy song. And Claire basically, she's kind of fucking had it with everything going on here. Yeah, she ends up diving while Jimmy stays out there up there, and she is going to retrieve all the bullion. Now she manages to, but then she has to get into the driver's side area, basically, because the shark is pursuing her. But then she somehow is able to trap this 12-foot bull shark in the van. It's not a 12-foot truck. So I think the shark's a little bit smaller, or physics have just defied everything at this point. Then again, I think in 1946 Australia, I don't know if anybody knew what physics were. That being said, she manages to get a gun out of there also that somehow is still working despite the fact it's been underwater for a bit. Even if it's only been underwater for a couple hours, I would imagine that gun might have jammed. But that being said, there was a sergeant that showed up earlier for questioning. Now he shows up again. No offense against the sergeant character. I mean, he's necessary as far as providing one little bit of stuff at the end, but the guy's performance is all right, but it's nothing memorable. We get a shootout where basically the people that you expect to die obviously die. And Bull is the only one left. It's Bull, Clara, and Jimmy. And there's this, this little, motorboat that Fisherman Bob had. And basically, Bull takes it out and has a gun, the Tommy gun. Well, not exactly Tommy gun. It didn't have the rotation thing, but it had like bullets. It was a machine gun variety. And he's trying to shoot. He does manage to clip Jimmy in the leg, but Jimmy somehow is okay. The shark is still trapped, by the way. The shark's just like chilling, saying, God, I would really like to get one of these and drive this around, except I'm an aquatic creature, and if I got on land, I'd die. I would have rather seen the shark's thoughts while sitting in that thing. That 12 to 15 foot bull shark that's there. They never got out to measure it. That was just a guess, by the way, but it's just hilarious that a 12 to 15 bull shark could fit in that vehicle when, yeah, some things could fit in there, but I think you also could put a 6 foot person, feet to goddamn head, and they might have just been touching the very back of that truck. Whatever, it's fine. The shark manages to get out, manages to get Bull after Bull got shot. But Bull, by the way, is in not even waist deep water, and somehow the bull shark gets him. Whatever. I mean, at this point, you just kind of want the movie to wrap it up. But now, basically, Jimmy and Clara have the business. And things are going all right. They did have some, sometime later, they got some kind of money, but maybe not, a ton of great stuff, but they'll get by. They also have one less mouth to feed because Ernie got, chomped. But Ernie, also, it turns out these two bank guys show up, left a will and left everything to Jimmy. And also, because the gold bullion was recovered, Clara gets a $2,500 reward. Okay. $2,500, $25,000, whatever the fuck it was. I think maybe it was $25,000. I don't care. It doesn't matter. It was some money. So everything's good, and that's it. That is Fear Below. That's Fear Below. It really wasn't much fear above or below. It was still more fearful than As Above, So Below. C+, it's fine. It is nothing that I am going to remember as much as Dangerous Animals, which again was a lot more fun. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritland. Until we fear the sea again, even though it was a river, happy trails to you.